Checking. Okay, Discord, it's picking me up. Check. Check.
Evening. How's everybody doing? Fantastic.
Did it go away? I thought it might have been me. I just found my headset and plugged it in now.
Would you believe me if I said that I've been talking and just now realized that I have the phone turned off?
I did an entire Dark Souls stream once, and none of it got picked up by OBS.
How's that one going for you?
I did an entire. It was the last one I did. I haven't touched it since then because I've been trying to stream it as I play it.
How far have you gotten on that one going for you?
Up to the bridge guarded by the dragon. It was my last death was when I thought, you know what, we'll take one more shot at dodging the dragon's fire and running under it, and in order to gain the speed necessary to pull it off, we will do it naked. Even nude, even sky-clad, even with dice control and bigger arms, I was not able to make it past the dragon.
You know, not actually a horrible plan.
I still feel like it's theoretically, like hypothetically possible. Like I feel like there's probably a really good player that could time it right. But I'm gonna have to find the option the game gives to other players to get around it.
Who was it that described Dark Souls as slamming yourself in the junk with a frying pan until you grow to enjoy it?
think it was that most famous of poets, Confucius Twain.
In the words of the man himself, it was like deja vu all over again.
Whoopsie. Thing you can't hear me. So let's try.
Your back and your front are both here. Your back and your front are both here. Your back and your front are both here. Okay. Oh. Sounds like I'm cut. Okay. Oh. Sounds like I'm cut. I'll test my mic out.
Okay. Oh.
Test, test.
Sounds like I'm
This
cut.
is only a test. I'll test my mic out.
Okay.
As I was saying before, I realized I'd been entirely muted. I'll be putting in an appearance at LibertyCon in Tennessee in a couple weekends from now. I know there'll be a couple other authors from our wide range of acquaintances there as well. So looking forward to that. I will have shirts with me to sell from the 6 or so designs I've got right now. I didn't think about it in time to make some kind of LibertyCon unique design, but everything I've made so far, I'll have a little bit of. Each of my shirt designs. In a variety of sizes, but skewing towards the large and up end because that's what seems to sell the most. Oh no, no, it's because all of my fans are yoked Giga Chads. I'm not even joking. In the other venues that I've sold shirts before, that is the reason why I tend to sell large and extra large seem to be the most popular, because the groups I've been selling shirts to have all been pretty in shape. Selling shirts to have all been pretty in shape. Shirts to have all been pretty in shape. Well, Fiona Wolf is dropping wisdom in the chat. Starve brand every day. Every month you are not subscribed to brand is a month that brand is hemorrhaging money. "'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogoves and the momraths outgrave." "Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. Then rested he by the Tumtum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, then through and through the vorpal blade went snicker snack. He left it dead, and with its head he came galumping back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy, O frabjous day, Calloo Calais, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. This is how we test audio on Geek Gab.
Hello, is my audio coming in through?
I've got you, Lima Charlie.
Excellent, excellent. Hey, people. So, what are we up to today?
Today we're playing Sport Tactics.
Alright, always an exciting day.
I'm getting
Anyone
ready
get
to
us through
cook some
anything earlier this day? My family went fishing today. That's always a good day. Even
Okay.
got something, even better.
Hey, what'd you catch?
A good catfish.
Ooh. We got a lake, river.
Lake. Very good lake. Lots of fun. Even if you don't catch anything, it's just fun to go out there and fish. But it's always better to catch something, of course.
True.
Most fun I ever had on a fishing trip was, I believe it had started as like a stocked pond, and then it got overpopulated, so they were like, please come and take as many fish out as you can.
Oh.
And so, it was me, my dad, brothers, friends, their dad. We walked away with like 14 catfish and like 60 smaller things. It was insane.
Oh, that's a very good haul. 14 catfish, that's a lot of good eating right there.
Speaking of a good haul, those who joined us last time may remember that I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to complete the Marquis Elmdor fight, because there were 3 victory conditions. The one the game sets you is you got to reduce Elmdor to 90% or lower HP. But the 2 I set for myself was stealing all of his Genji equipment. The only way you can get them at all in the game is by robbing it from him. And then the other was teaching Reinhard Ultima, which can only be done if he's in the Squire job, and it is cast on him. And see, I actually think I need to load the other save file. 1 second. But yeah, I finally, like on the 3rd or 4th try, might have been more than that, I ended up just having my calculator go off and cast totally on all the enemies and some of my guys and won, but I didn't get all the Genji equipment. So off stream, I went through again, and what do you know, I just immediately crushed him. So there we go, it's got to be this one. Weird, unless my save file is missing or something. Try that one more time. But as for all, in case folks didn't hear me at the beginning of the show, I'm having a great day because Combat Frames Z-Strike Exceed just crossed the 6K mark. We have funded Stretch Goal 2, the Series 6 trading cards. So hop in and get your trading cards. get your deeply discounted editing services, get the book before anyone else who's not backing the campaign. Links in the show notes. And we'll have a new stretch goal and some new perks for you tomorrow.
I'm camping out for that RPG playtest.
Good. Good things come to those who wait. And patience obtains all things.
Hey, Bradford Walker's in chat. Welcome. Good to see you, friend.
Hey, Bradford.
And for those that want to influence the lore, but don't want to go for the build-a-mech route, RPG playtests, it can be done. You can influence the canon.
So here we go. There's that sweet Genji equipment. Oh, I love this stuff. But yeah, make your mark on the lore. It's your last chance. It's your last chance. So you can do it through the RPG exclusive Build-A-Mech, of which there's only one left, I believe. You can do it through being a character who gets killed in the book. There's some of those left. And also through the short story commission, if you want to commission a story set in the Combat Frame Exceed universe. But we've only got about a week left. That's it. Can you guys believe it? I can't believe it.
Man, how many years has this been going on now? At least 3 or 4, right?
I believe this is the 5th because we started in 2018. So yeah, it's been a minute. Thanks for everybody's support during all that time.
This is the final book, right?
It is, yeah.
Wow, the end of a saga.
Yep, and the 3rd series I will have completed.
That's about 3 more to Patrick Rothfuss is completed.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Bradford. Occasionally the... Go ahead.
I was going to say, Bradford says he's been dealing with the particular Oriental flu of note, but of less note as of recently. Almost over it. That's good to hear, man. I hope you recover swiftly.
Hey, get well soon. Someone else about to say something?
Don't say anything.
Anything? What?
I was listening to the stream. About 10-second delay, I assume. Reading out comment.
Well, get in here. Join the convo.
I was about to say, speaking of incompleted series, that's... Whenever I really need motivation to sit down and write, I remind myself of all of the authors whose writing I don't like, and then remind myself that however much I might complain about that, they actually sat down and finished a book.
True.
That is true. That is true. A theoretical person could write down, or did sit down and write wibbly wobbly in his Star Wars book.
I got paid a dump truck full money.
But
Go
he
ahead.
did. But he did finish a book.
Yeah. That included the words wibbly wobbly in that whole part, and then an editor actually looked at it and said, "Yeah, no, that's good to publish." But he did it. I won't begrudge him that much. He did it.
He did it. And that means any of you out there can do the same. Well, almost any of you can do better, I'd imagine. Just setting up for the final showdown with Elmdor here. So he's the one who claims to be holding Alma, Reinhardt's sister, hostage. And we have driven him to flight twice now. So, gonna be about time to end this. Luckily, this fight is way easier than the previous one.
Rawl brings up a very salient quote in chat, quoting Ed Lattimore, "Crackheads work for 4 days straight to get a rock. Don't get outworked by a crackhead." When you put it that way, when you frame it that way, it does bring it into stark relief.
Wisdom of the internet gurus.
I remember seeing that one. That is a good one.
Yeah, go follow him, guys. Ed Lattimore on Twitter. He's just full of nuggets of wisdom.
For some reason, the stream isn't loading on the Discord from when you're sharing it. Let me see if I can refresh.
Yeah, that's not a big deal.
Yeah. It's just nice to hear the sound for me. Oh well, guess I got a little bit of delay.
Hatertainment. Oh, I'm stealing that escape below. Alright, let's get it on.
Hey, John Dinker's in the chat. Welcome, friend. Good to see you again. Hope you're doing good in your little neck of the woods.
Always nice to see our resident Florida man.
Absolutely.
Actually, by the way, here's something that popped up on a Pulp Rev chat earlier today. I'm curious as to y'all's input. What's the best and worst required reading books that you had to read as a young lad?
Oh, I have some definite ideas on that one, but I'm gonna let others answer first.
Worst ever was Like Water for Chocolate, followed closely by House on Mango Street. Not even close.
That's been pinned up for a while, it sounds like.
I have a near eidetic memory, which means that I can still quote parts of those books by heart. And I don't want to.
Yikes.
Oh.
Did anyone here read Catcher in the Rye as a young lad? I never
Yes.
actually got to read that one. Oh.
I was spared that.
Is it as bad as I'm told, or...?
Yes.
Oh. Well,
it-
I would say that's a shame, but I didn't have any expectations in the first place, so meh.
Is it bad because it's one of those books in which nothing at all happens, or
Yes! You're not leaving me with much to unpack here. No,
It's
it's what it is. It's the quintessential boomer naval contemplation, like, oh, woe is me, I'm surrounded by unprecedented largesse and prosperity, but the world doesn't conform to my preferences, so I've got to rebel by being a total asshat. And also some borderline like implied not pedo stuff, but like older male teacher possibly taking advantage of younger male student. If you read between the lines,
Uh-oh.
it's a little creepy.
You know, it's interesting because I remember I got to see an anime film in theaters. That's also based off a Japanese novel, not a web novel, not a manga, not a light novel, just a straight up Japanese novel called Fortune Favors Lady Nikuko. Mouthful of a name, but it was actually a good coming of age story, very wholesome, very positive, and actually makes reference to Catcher in the Rye as her required reading. I haven't read it myself, so I don't know how deep the comparisons go, but given everything that you've said, doesn't seem like it goes that far beyond that they're both coming of age stories. Interesting. I think maybe Catcher in the Rye is just so culturally ingrained, you just kind of have to reference it in any big teenage coming of age story or something like that. Because I know it was referenced in that one Square Enix game, Life is Strange. Yeah, it was heavily referenced to that game.
I mean, by that logic, Oimisville is like should be required reading, and I could make a better argument for that being required reading than Catcher in the Rye.
I mean, I'm not saying it should be required to read. I'm just saying at this point it is like it is so deeply culturally ingrained in a lot of ways. Admittedly, the title Catcher in the Rye is kind of catchy.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Oimisville is Ernst Junger's post-apocalyptic sci-fi coming-of-age novel.
Wait, Ernst Junger wrote fiction?
Ernst Junger wrote Fallout fanfic before Fallout existed, basically. That's the best way I can describe it.
We're talking the same Ernst Junger who wrote The Storm of Steel?
Yes.
What? No way! Oh man, I gotta check this out. I don't know he wrote fiction.
I've got a combined edition that's Forest Passage and Oimsville. I'm reading it in order, but I'm really looking forward to Oimsville.
Yeah, the thing to keep in mind about Oimsville is, like everything Ernst Junger wrote, he goes on tangents. Boy, does he go on tangents. Some of his tangents are longer than the chapters they're ostensibly about.
Still though, I definitely have to check this out. I imagine I can find it free online pretty easy. This is excellent. I love The Storm of Steel. One of the greatest nonfiction books I've ever read.
If you ever decide you're looking for a print copy, let me know and I can point you in the right direction.
Oh, please do so. I'd love to own a physical copy myself. Boone Sugar was quite the mensch, and he just happened to be a gifted writer, too. John Dacre says, I read Catcher in the Rye in university at the recommendation of a roommate. Hated it. That roommate did you a great disservice, apparently.
You know, I think I read Lord of the Flies as required reading in school. That was definitely one of my favorites. Shakespeare was great.
I read Lord of the Flies in 9th grade. Yeah, that was in 9th grade. It wasn't one of the worst ones I read. Well, I won't say Great Gatsby is worse, but I did hate it. Mostly because I hate F. Scott Fitzgerald. I was spared Arthur. No, I had to read Death of a Salesman. No, that was the one I probably hated the most.
To be honest,
Great
well, to be honest, I
Great
just
Gatsby.
finally. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Great Gatsby was actually one of the ones I preferred reading simply because it had a beginning, middle, and end and a plot that was resolved.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, we were saying
you
that
were
one
saying
too.
something?
It was okay. I was just saying that after a while, like once I figured out the game, like, oh, okay, once you've read one of these quote unquote important novels, you've read them all, and once you know what frustrated litfic author high school teachers want you to say, I just stopped doing the reading and passed the tests anyway.
Yeah.
Because you just
Yeah, it'll
start
save you a
waxing
lot of
poetic
time.
on like existentialism and flattering them, and you're good.
I didn't figure that trick out till it was far, far too late, unfortunately. But I did kind of piece together that all of these were the same. One of the most miserable ones I read beyond Arthur Miller was... It wasn't Emile Zola. Jeez, who was the writer? Some modernist piece of crap from France, but I repeat myself. The book was Therese Rakan. Yeah, that was one of the most miserable books I ever read. Was that No, yeah, that was Therese Rakan. Had to read that one. Right, now I'm...
What?
It wasn't Yozola. Huh, I was right. Huh?
My
Yeah,
favorite
miserable.
part. Oh, sorry.
I was just saying miserable, don't read it, but you didn't need me to tell you that now, did you?
Some of my favorite required reading was got Beowulf, Song of Roland's, Battle of the White Horse, all in high school.
Wow. That's a decent curriculum. Interestingly enough, I took an international baccalaureate program, which is supposed to focus more on other cultures' writings. But by other cultures' writings, they don't go into things like Beowulf and the Song of Roland, or like the Tale of Genji, or other foundational literature, which is historically and culturally important. They go into like things like Therese Rakan, or not even Shakespeare. It's just like things like Therese Rakan, Arthur Miller, and other miserable dreck. Lord of the Flies, but with only girls. Escape Velocity says in chat. Not sure what he means by that, but I remember hearing
Color
some
purple,
talk
I
about
believe.
a remake of the Lord of the Flies film, but with an all-female cast. Haven't heard anything about that in years, so I don't know if it died or... Interesting.
What were you saying, Martel?
I was just saying I think that's that they're talking about the previous post, the color purple.
Hmm.
I have no idea what that is.
Let's see. My favorite books, actually, the ones I read were actually in elementary school. Island of the Blue Dolphins was... I remember being interested in the actual story behind it, at least. And the book was fine enough by itself, I suppose. The Land of the Beaver Tribe, I actually liked that one. And I also got to read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in 5th grade. So that was good. And it was all downhill from there. Although, you know what's jealous? I learned that apparently some curriculums have Ender's Game as required reading.
Ooh.
I was jealous. I did not get Ender's Game. I read it anyways, but I did not get it for points in school, so I was jealous.
Really?
Yeah. Did you get it?
You were assigned Ender's Game in school.
No. I was not, but I know of other people who were.
Okay.
So yeah, suffice it to say, I was jealous. Anyone here ever read The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne?
Yes.
Oh dear.
You keep hitting the
I
highlights.
have no idea what it's about.
Christians bad! Or actually, anti-commies in the 50s bad, and Christians bad by double weird association.
Oh, is this like the Crucible?
Kinda.
A thinly veiled allegory for McCarthy?
Well, I mean, my teachers seem to think so. So, I mean, take it with a grain of salt.
Nathaniel Hawthorne died 1864, apparently.
Okay, that's my teachers then.
Oh, that's 80 years before the House Un-American Activities Committee.
Welcome to critical, like, historical literary criticism.
I'm sorry, that made me had a chuckle. I had a chuckle hearing that. The idea of teachers forcing out. I'm not
I'm
sure if
glad
that's funny,
someone got a life on. I'm glad someone had fun because of that book now.
Yeah.
That's what that
I'm
means.
sorry. I don't know if it's funny or if it's sad. The idea of teachers forcing down, like, you know, basically unabashed American and McCarthy hate through the vehicle of a book written like a century before the House Un-American Activities Committee even began. That's I don't know if that's funny or sad. I just choose to laugh, I suppose, either way, but
Yeah, we know
apologies
these
if it
people
happens to
are
your
not bound by logic.
Yeah. Apologies that it happens to be at your expense.
Tabs, although.
Chan says Handmaid's Tale is a Canadian feminist version of What Would Happen If Hitler. Yeah, that's true. I was spared from that, thank the good Lord above.
Now, perhaps someone in the chat can correct me, but I'd recently heard that Atwood originally wrote The Handmaid's Tale as an allegory for Islam, and it's only more recently that it has been more co-opted into Christian bashing.
Actually, I remember it as specifically for the
Not
Iranian
surprised me.
Revolution.
So, what's up, Martel?
Would not surprise me.
I've also heard similarly.
Yeah, I remember hearing it was written as a response to the Iranian Revolution specifically.
Okay, yeah, so that checks out. Hey, we got a pretty purple rock.
Ooh.
Rock obtained. Party time. Weird vampire lamprey guy in a neck brace defeated. Also, he was lying about having Reinhardt's sister, so we can't forgive that.
The bad guy wasn't being entirely truthful.
Right? You think it's...
Shinji rubber nye.
At some point, you think that Reinhardt would stop being so naive after all he's witnessed. Yeah, man, I just plowed through that compared to the previous battle. Yes, the giant purple Skittle. Well, you know what? I can show you them up close. They just look like giant Skittles in the game engine, but Square commissioned some fancy concept art for them. I'll show you in a minute.
Ooh, that sounds like a treat.
Chan in chat, whether it was anti-Islam or anti-Christian intent, it's still stupid. Oh, there's been ample and public evidence of that. Seems like we can't hold a Supreme Court hearing or a pro-life protest without cosplayer fetishists LARPing all over the place. It's like, no, I'm not going to sexually dominate you. You're unattractive. Go away. Go home. So in good news, I've started to detect what looks like death cult fatigue forming a preference cascade. Anyone else notice that?
Do tell. Well, what's the sign for you? What's the tell?
Well, multiple, but one came from my blog post today. There was an article in which it was announced that Texas's Attorney General is launching an investigation into Twitter's allegedly fake user numbers. But I mean, let's be honest, it's been an open secret in big tech for years. Like, yeah, they've got an army of something like 600,000 bot accounts that they use to manipulate the trending feature and bump up blue check accounts. It's just like it's been proven on the user end. But for a while now, Twitter has been stalling and handing over their data to Elon Musk, who rightfully, I think, said, hey, I'm buying a social media platform. A social media platform derives its value from its users. They are the product. So if 20% plus of your users are fake, then we need to renegotiate the price. Well, then Texas's AG came out, said, okay, well, I'm going to subpoena them and force them to hand over the data. And yesterday, Twitter caved and said they're going to hand over the data. Now, a couple interesting things about that. One, the story that I found was in the Texas Tribune, which I'm given to understand by people from Texas, is left-leaning. But they wrote about as close to an objective and balanced story as I've ever seen in the press. So that's odd. Second of all, Twitter flinching first in their game of chicken with Musk. I mean, can anyone else here think of a time when the death cult has relaxed their grip at all on any institution they captured? Anybody?
And concurrently, you've also got Netflix actually admitting that they're losing subscribers, and they're starting to go into a bit of a panic mode, and are like canceling a lot of projects they had planned.
Netflix, I mean, all the stocks had a huge shock, but the general S&P 500 stabilized, but Netflix is in a nosedive. It was like $700 at one point, and it's now like 120. Shareholders are like at the point they have legitimate suit concerns.
Yeah, thanks, Emperab. And that's just on the macro scale, right? That's on the cloud person level. Another data point I saw recently is in the rank and file. Anybody else see that the voters of San Francisco recalled their terrorist offspring DA, for want of a better term?
I did see that.
Wouldn't get too enthused about that.
I mean, they're not going to replace them with anyone better, I can guarantee you that. San Francisco is a microcosm on the... It is a portent on the dangers of democracy, but the fact that they even bothered to recall him is... There's something there.
More of a recall for insufficient enthusiasm about the program.
And I think most of their crime problems are still not related to the DA not prosecuting, but redefining of crimes.
See, I don't know.
They're not. They won't vote in a million years for anything that has a chance of actually successfully lowering crime rates because they, target underprivileged kids, etc.
See, that is where I'm beginning to reconsider my position. And I'll tell you why. And it's because if you look at who your typical death cultists are, I mean, they're affluent, left-leaning white people who talk like MLK, but they live like white nationalists. Like, if you look at where they actually live, their entire boutique religion is predicated on never experiencing the consequences of their decisions. Right? That is why they'll destroy an area with the way they vote, but then they won't stay there and sleep in the bed they made. They will move to a neighboring state and destroy it. But I just have to wonder if part of the impetus behind the recall, even though they would never admit it, is like, oh my gosh, I can't go to Walgreens without having a homeless guy accost me, and when I get there, there's nothing on the shelves because it's all been stolen.
You're thinking like a rational person. When a fanatic comes into contact with reality, they conclude that reality is what needs to change.
But here's the thing, though: the bell curve and basic mathematics says that most people aren't fanatics. I think the math bears out that you always have a small core of fanatics, and then most people around them just kind of go with the flow, so to speak.
It's the control mechanism. How long can the control mechanism last with the fanatics? The fanatics are never usually in charge. They're the how should I say, the catalyst. They help keep the thing going, but they're not the ones running the thing.
Right, and I'll agree with Martel, to a point, but I don't know, it's starting to look like that fanaticism has some limits, at least, on the people who are just going with the flow. And I'm not saying it's a rational response, because, again, they have a habit of trying to evade the consequences of their actions. If they were really reality proof, they would just stay in the burning house saying this is fine, wouldn't they? Like, we wouldn't have this max exodus.
No, and look at the most instructive example from recent history is communism. They don't really produce martyrs, but they produce mountains of corpses.
True. And sadly,
They're not going to sacrifice in their conflict with reality, but they'll cheerfully sacrifice everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've done that. And now they're running out of places to go.
True.
And it's coming...
Even the, quote, success of the CCP is not true success. What happened, and the philosophy of Chinese communism is actually not communism. It's actually go with the flow, adapt, and change. There's a really good video. I'll look it up. But he basically discusses the Chinese didn't even stick with communism. They abandoned it for more practical uses and pretended to be doing it.
The Chinese system, as it is now, would be perfectly recognizable to any other Chinese government in history.
It became a dynasty again with new flavoring.
Yep.
And even the flavoring tastes the same once you get past the outside crunchy part.
First time in about 1,500 years that the home actually been charged.
True.
Charged, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, even the great CCP is not even doing communism, but dynasty with a communism paint job.
see. Let's check the chat real quick. So, Paul says, and he brings up a salient point that Brian mentioned earlier. You'll never see public housing in Beverly Hills or Manhattan.
Yeah, exactly. And eventually, I mean, there's always going to be like gated enclaves like in South America, but your avocado toast eating, soy milk drinking millennial who writes a column for BuzzFeed in exchange for exposure and lives in a one room flat with like 4 other guys is not going to be able to afford to move in there away from the diversity. It's going to catch up to him.
What do you think is more likely to happen? That they turn against everything that they have been taught for their entire life and start looking at the actual problems? Or that they go with the propaganda playing, the kulaks or the Nazis or whatever for all of their problems and focus on destroying that?
I think it's an open question. Because it has to do with... Okay. Again, I don't want to get the channel in trouble, but I will just ask this. What is the motivation for the Democrat Party to, let us say, encourage immigration from the third world? Just mull that one
Dissolve
over.
the people and elect another.
Yes.
One of my favorite poems.
Yes. And there's a reason they want to do that, and it has to do with the Lincoln adage, right? You can fool all the people some of the time and some of the people all the time, etc., etc. So I'm not saying that every death cultist will suddenly logically think, gee, everything sucks now, I'm going to go be a Republican. I am saying they're going to be what I believe it was Joe Sobran pointed out. They will be mugged by reality. And yeah, some of them will turtle and just retreat deeper into the fantasy, right? They'll just think, oh, the mothership didn't arrive to the scheduled time because I didn't pay enough carbon credits to Gaia, I better double down. But some of them will start to, and I think are starting to change their behavior, if not their thinking.
You should have
Wasn't
seen
that mugged by reality quote referring to neoconservatives?
No,
Yeah.
I mean they came from the same source as the current problem, so yes.
Yeah, it was, and that's exactly my point, because the neoconservatives were Trotskyites.
That's
Yes, and they didn't stop.
that's true. But on to a point, to keep a bit more on the Brian's point of reality, enough people who are just going, it can't be fooled all the time. On Tim Pool to tonight, and they didn't get swatted tonight, unlike last night.
Oh, good.
They pretty much sounded like what you would think some right-wing people, like extreme right-wing, in 2017 or 16 would be. Like, and I know Tim swears, but you just like, that's how much more people who I consider still pretty much left of me in every way, in a lot of ways, are, they're going, brah, this can't keep going. Brah, come on.
Wow.
You've been just amazed at what they were saying and what they were talking about. It was like, I was like going, okay, okay.
The country is never more than 3 missed meals away from revolution, and we're currently sitting at 5 capacity $6.50 burger in McDonald's. So,
the sad truth is, we'll still be fine on food, but there might be a lot of fist fights and people getting healthy from the fist fights.
well, if things stop at the current rate, yes.
Yeah.
But the world is unpredictable.
Yeah. Well, we're still a net ex-food exporter. But Yeah. There was one stat today that kind of made me go, WTF. And it was a disapproval of the Brandon, and it was not that it was the normal, it was that the Hispanics was worse than the whites. Their approval was lower and their disapproval was almost the same. And I went, how? How?
Hey man, Hispanics expect results.
I guess it is that because the mix of the Aztecs and the conquistadors, you kind of want results.
I mean, Hispanics all moved to America because they thought it was going to be a better deal than the old country.
It was, and then it wasn't. And it only took about 10 years.
Yeah. And it is quite traditional to blame the person in charge for things good or bad.
True.
Yep.
Whew. Well, it looks like 5 miles of bad road.
Uh-oh.
What happened to him? That's TG Sid's son, by the way. Oh, see.
So what did I miss on the more important thing, the plot?
Oh yeah. So remember how last time I tried like half a dozen times or more to beat Elmdor with all the... Yeah.
I remember our duet on that scenario. Very interesting.
Yeah, so immediately after that, off stream, I redid the battle again and just completely crushed it, like, perfectly, and got all the Genji equipment. So the game apparently didn't want anyone else to see it. It wanted that between me and the game. So we just had our third and final battle with Elmdor. He turned into a weird bat-winged lamprey thing in a neck brace. We killed it. We got a nifty purple rock. Oh yeah, which I've got to show Crusader Saracen and everyone else.
So purple rock for a lamprey. This bad guy changing into evil demon thing seems a very repeating theme.
Most astute, yes. And after this, I'm gonna go after Cloud because clearing Limberry Castle is a precondition of getting him in your party. Last we saw, he came out of like a teleport from the future and ran away.
This guy's just expositing the whole plot. Oh, and how many Roman emperors said the exact same thing?
At least 5.
Yeah.
But I thought they weren't going to rebel.
Oh, watch him get interrupted. Watch him burst it. Yeah.
Is that... Yeah, I just started looking at the room they're in. Is that a throne room, or...
No, I think it's just a fancy room in a palace.
Random platforms everywhere.
Yeah, and the game visually answers the question Nolan raised.
Oh, someone's dying.
He's kind of got a point. Yeah, that is weird. I'm not getting the architecture interior design here. But it looks cool. Yes, Chan, I believe that is the explanation. That's this is where Cloud went after he fell into the live stream. We pulled him out with Mustadio's machine.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Like somebody a while ago explained it. I think it might have been Mega Buster Shepard or Bradford Walker, but yeah, like all the Evilise games, so Final Fantasy Tactics 1 and 2, Vagrant Story, and FF12 take place in the same world as FF7.
Whoa.
Just like at vastly different times. Like I think FF7 is a far future of this. Oh, and 10. 10 as well.
Wow. I've always been confused on whether or not all the Final Fantasy is like some sort of multiverse thing or...
Yeah, it depends on who you ask.
I think that 13 and 15 were supposed to be set in the same universe. But I didn't play either, so.
Yeah, same here. I've seen a bit of 15. Now, I have been informed that 15 has deeply Catholic themes, which is interesting. Just kind of like the apology for this.
Well, at the end, after you kill the final boss, you and your team commit group suicide, so you all get sentinels, so you can kill them.
Ha. Okay, didn't hear that.
Wait, are you telling me they did a serious version of the jerk firefighter meme comic?
Yes.
That's incredible.
The queen
Okay.
is pretty stupid, isn't she?
Well,
This is actually unexpected.
yeah. Okay, MBS and Bradford Walker are going to lay it out for us in chat.
I think I finally fixed my technical problems on some rendering I've been doing.
Good.
So how should I put it this way? I found out I needed more storage on my main hard drive with the OS on it. I don't know why Premiere Pro acts that way, but it does. And
Okay.
this was after I tried to move everything out of there.
What is wrong with this kingdom where instead of being executed, revolutionaries are offered jobs? Or counter-revolutionaries.
Jobs program.
There you go.
I mean, if the guy is competent.
Yeah, he broke in here, I'd say so. Was going full Corleone on him. Okay. Ah, the sheer audacity. Gotta love it.
That's a good reaction.
And okay, what do we got in chat here? Okay, Mega Buster Shepard and Bradford Walker. Tactics Advance, Vagrant Story, and Final Fantasy XII are explicitly tied together in setting and separated by time. Okay. They are then linked to 14 via a 3-part raid series. Tactics, 12, Revenant Wings, and their spin-offs take place in Evil East. And Evil East is a fallen kingdom in the past in part 14. 7 is a future of 10. The people of Spirit colonized FF7's planet in the far future. Okay, and now we have Cloud and Evil East in this game. So there you go. Yeah, Dreadnought, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. There's apparently a door over there. And by the way, Martel, he might not have been wrong.
That's where we're at.
You just had the wrong victim.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see. Gilgamesh is a planeswalker, so he connects every game he's in. And FF4 is getting thematic and lore tie-ins for 14. The upcoming raid series has the players fighting Golbez and the Fiends. Oh, fun. Okay. Remember what I was explaining about the mushrooms last time, Martel?
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like our older brother has hired a chemist. Whatever for. What do you think they're doing, chat? Hey, just put that anywhere.
Did he seriously just toss the poison into the river?
Yes, he did. To his credit, it's not that poisonous.
My old chemistry high school professor said dilution is the solution. If you get enough per particle of water, it's not that bad.
The dosage makes the poison, as they say.
Yeah. Or you just up it, like in Princess Bride, so you get immune.
I've slowly been building an immunity to iocane poisoning over the last several years.
Well, see, the thing with moss fungus is that won't work with it because the idea is that taking small doses over time causes it to build up and you end up with cold-like symptoms that don't abate and eventually get worse, and you die of respiratory arrest. Which is what happened to Reinhard and Zalbag's dad, because that's his grave. You connecting the dots yet?
Oh.
Oh. That's almost like
So
radiation.
this guy.
poisoning, too.
Also, what evil mastermind worth his salt doesn't just kill the only other person who knows the secret?
It is like 101 of evil masterminding. Oh, is this a loose end? Body goes tumbling over building.
Well, Zalbag isn't the evil mastermind. He just discovered the plot of the real evil mastermind, who's his older brother.
Oh wait, Zalbag wasn't the one who poisoned him?
No, he just found out that his older brother Dystarg did.
Okay, I was getting them mixed up.
Yeah, they look alike. They're brothers.
Yeah, so Dystark was the one getting blackmailed. Zalbag just found out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the shrine priests figured it out too. So he is now what you'd call highly motivated. Yeah, Oran is the man. Okay. So I'm going to save up because I don't want to have to watch that again. As fun as it was. Let's take a look at my rock collection. I want to show you. So yeah, we haven't been in here yet, but we got this whole secret section where we can look over like the story thus far, and the people we've met, and the jobs we've taken, little resume builder there, and all the treasures. So, yeah, the Grammatic Scriptures, that's basically the Da Vinci Code. That monk way back from the beginning, Simon, who was Princess of Elia's guardian, basically found the Gospel of Judas and translated it and believed it for some reason, even though he couldn't verify it. And what it says is that Evilis's version of Jesus wasn't really divine. He was instead a spy sent to gather intel on and disrupt the ranks of Evilis's version of the Roman Empire, and was executed for his trouble. But then his followers raised up a cult to him afterward. But one thing that Ajora was after were these, the Holy Stones, because he wanted to gather all of them in order to recreate the Zodiac Braves, which, as we've covered, are these 12 warriors who appear at times of greatest need and defeat evil with supernatural power. So it actually turns out that they are malefacted Nephesite, as they'd be called in FF12, that summon demons which can possess the holders. So we got the Ares stone here. Got that from Vigroff. Got the Taurus, hopefully the SHO version.
Yeesh.
Gemini, yeah, the one we just got from not Sephiroth. And Cancer, which ironically healed race. Oh yeah, the Cardinal had that one. See something interests you? So we didn't get all of these from defeating Lucavi, we just found some of them. So there we go. There are my cool rocks.
Those are very cool rocks.
Thank you. I worked very hard to collect them.
Very cool part of the lore. Would you say that's an advantage of storytelling in a medium like games versus books, where you can include details like these little rocks that would otherwise be difficult to include in the book without bogging down the forward narrative the rest of the story?
You can always do what Tolkien did.
Appendices.
Appendices.
Yep.
The appendices. I can't believe I went through all those, and it was worth every cent.
Those were some of the best parts of the book.
Actually, that's why I love the Silmarillion so much, is because the Silmarillion was like, so, you don't remember the appendices? How about I make a bunch of short stories, if not long stories, about the stuff I hinted about in them? So good. I still remember one. I can't remember which Silmarillion tale it was, but it was about, and I think it was actually explicitly Erwin and Aragorn both talked about it, but it was about an elf and I think a human male, and how they took on, not I think Morgoth, but some evil bad guy equivalent. And it was a pretty good story.
Oh no, it was
Luthien, I
Morgoth.
believe. It was Morgoth and Sauron.
And not Gavadon, what's his name? The wolf is just another form of Sauron. No, it's not.
No, the wolf was Droth.
Karkaroth.
Yeah, I think it was Doroth.
The wolf and
Karkaroth, I think,
the
right?
wolf was Drogluin. The bat was the other one.
But I like that tale because it was just it had like 3 big pushes through it after getting you introduced to it. But it was a hell of a ride. Like, it could have been more detailed. It was kind of more of a short story pace, but a lot of the Silmarillion tales were short stories. Really long short stories, but still short stories.
Baron and Luthien got the full-length treatment a couple years ago by Christopher Tolkien the same way Fall of Gondolin did.
They did a full-length Fall of Gondolin.
Yes.
I might need to go hunt those out.
They did. It's sort of like a trilogy. They did a full length, and by full length I mean basically Christopher Tolkien is basically presenting it as like the most complete version he's been able to piece together. And so he'll have like a forward where he explains like, hey, I used this wording here because X, Y, Z, and these things have changed. And so Fall of Gondolin got that treatment, Baron and Luthien got that treatment, and Children of Hurin got that treatment.
They did. Oh boy. I was about to ask about Children of Hurin.
That was actually the first one. That one, man, that one's almost at least been out for a decade at this point.
I like to call it George R. R. Martin better than George.
Oof. It's got everything he wants. Handled way better.
You know what I boiled down George R. R. Martin to? Does anyone remember that one? I think it was a young adult series. It was a movie, and then they made an Amazon Prime series out of it. I believe it's called oh gosh, what was it called? The Golden Compass, something of that sort, right?
Oh, that.
The Golden.
Yeah.
You mean the Golden Compass?
Yeah, the Golden Compass. What did I say? I boiled down that series to F you, C.S. Lewis, you're not my real father.
That was
In
a
that
good
same
interpretation.
vein, I
Accurate.
boiled down George R. R. Martin down to F you, Tolkien, you're not my real father. I'm gonna make my own epic fantasy series with blackjack and hookers.
Also accurate.
Yeah, that's that's their careers in a nutshell. The Golden Compass guy especially, he just really hates the church. He didn't like being woken up as a child to go to church on Sundays.
Pullman,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can understand,
Standard mid-aughts atheist crowd.
but yeah, very very short timeline. Like stories from the pulps and Tolkien and all the others that they're still good, but the aughts I don't want to be woken up Sunday atheist crowd. That's a very narrow niche band that's only going to last like it didn't last.
It's just
Oh,
all
no.
of their complaints about religion ultimately revolve around the most petty things. Like
Yeah, they're
Christopher Pullman, and it's also completely historically illiterate. Like Christopher Pullman in his, his villain/hero/author mouthpiece, Lyra's father or whatever. I read the first book and a half and then stopped halfway through the second book just to see what it was about. But in the first book, the mouthpiece is ranting about how religion is actually so evil. And the thing that he brings up to prove that religion's evil is that the church had choirs of castrati in the Middle Ages.
Okay.
Because, of course, to this guy, the notion of preventing someone from having sex is the worst possible thing that can ever happen.
Yeah, I wonder how he feels about
Yeah.
hormone replacement therapy and surgery for kids.
Let's not go there. People might be listening. But, no, the point is just, yes, there were castrati in the Middle Ages, but that was also a secular thing, and eunuchs have been a thing in pretty much every culture throughout all of history. So if you're going to get angry at something over that, that's not a religious thing. That's just a general thing. And there are plenty of things that you can criticize the church for. Castrati ain't one of them. Unless, you want to criticize the entire units, which is fine. But again, that's hardly isolated. And then the absolutely embarrassing The Last Church short story that Warhammer 40k had, which supposedly featured the Emperor and the Last Priest having a debate about religion. That was also just embarrassing. Because this guy brings up some baths that were supposed to heal people, so people were invited in, and naturally their diseases spread, yada yada yada. Once again, just not really historically literate. Oh, and it also featured the line, "Politics has slain its 1,000, religion its millions." Which is about as close to the opposite of reality as you can get.
that sounds about right.
Especially after the last century.
Yeah, what is it? According to the Encyclopedia of Wars, only like 7% of all wars had a primarily religious cause.
Yeah, and even then, primarily is debatable because every single side was trying to take land and resources.
Yeah, the word primarily is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Really, Song Tzu and the Prince explain every war you need to know about that you might get hurt in.
Well, let's take the two religious wars that come to mind first when you think religious wars: the Muslim conquest of Spain and the Crusades. In the case of the first, the Muslims might have been fighting to spread the faith, but they also took Spain, which was one of the richest kingdoms remaining at the time. In the case of the second, there might have been a cause to free the Holy Land. Certainly the Crusaders were sincere about that, but they also, many of them were also second, third, or fifth sons who had no prospects of inheritance at home, but were given titles of nobility in the Kingdom of Jerusalem and Antioch. So,
I mean, the surplus elites is a serious problem all societies have.
It's definitely one we got.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
Emperor said, the word primarily is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Lee.
Yeah, actually, that thing I sent you back earlier, Brian, that is one counter to one of his arguments, is that, oh, we have plenty of elites to choose from. And I'm like going, no, that's not a good thing. Actually, having a shortage of elites is a good thing, because it means you might actually pull from new stock that you never thought you would need, but you now need to pull from. But,
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been a case that there's always the quote good breeding stuff, but usually a more vibrant society is one where it's actually usually, yes, you have your elites in society, but it's actually the ones who are fresh in have a great shot of doing something. But, basically, the threat of the latter always bringing up someone new is more important than actually maintaining a no ladder up position.
I am doing it. But yeah, I mean, that's an intriguing theory I read is that death cultism is the macaroni of the modern day. Like, anyone familiar with the usage of that term in the song Yankee Doodle?
The somewhat foppish style of clothing that was popular at the time.
That's it. What was the reason that especially British elites would dress like total clowns in oversized powder wigs and tiny hats?
Conspicuous consumption.
Right, and not just that, it was conspicuous consumption that the lower orders couldn't replicate because it involved buying expensive fabrics from the continent that they couldn't afford. Right, it was a way to set themselves apart from the commoners. Well, these days, what are our conspicuous consumption items? This isn't a trick question, I mean just...
Funko Pops?
Sluzz?
Yeah, it's consumer goods. It's like iPods, Funko Pops, Priuses, but it's all stuff that globalization has, in a way, made affordable to even the common man. So what the elites have done as a way of setting themselves apart is adopt these boutique ideas which define them. So it's really quite ingenious because, like, okay, these ideas, this secular religion defines us. And it's not that the dirt people can't adopt them, but they can't adopt them without becoming death cultists, without getting assimilated. So it's rather fiendish. But the problem is, getting back to what you guys are saying, we've got a surplus of elites now. There are too many elites, like, there are too many minor sons of the nobility and not enough positions in the bureaucracy to give them all something useful to do. So they have way too much free time on their hands, so they go around ginning up these largely fake crises so they can justify their own existence. That's a theory I find interesting anyway.
It is interesting. It at least merits further consideration.
It explains quite a few things, but not all things, because, like, some elites can't get into certain things. Oh, like, I would say, like, some industries, or say, like, certain things, like people who are multi-generational, say, pilots or military officers or something. There's kind of an elite thing going on for, like, multi-generational people who served in certain agencies or police or even pilots now, particularly with how hard it is to get in as a pilot, cost-wise and other stuff, but you can still make it happen. But there does kind of be some, maybe you could say not elite positions, but micro bureaucracy positions that are almost just like the elite surplus in that they have a cliquish system that is created a surplus of them even now. So even the elites can't get in because the elites are dealing with a clique that protects themselves, and if you're not part of the clique, well, it doesn't matter you're elite, you're just not getting in the clique.
It's a big club and you're not in it.
Yeah.
But you can share its ideology and be one of the good ones, as it were. Not just a useless eater. Come on, Agris, finish him off. Yes. Ah, greater good. Bradford Walker in chat. Elite overproduction inevitably requires either expansion of the borders or internal war. Yeah, opinions on that panel?
Well,
No.
no. Even the Romans didn't fix that one. Hell, that was the reason the Romans kept invading everyone. So they had actually, early on, one thing that fascinated me always about the Romans was they had a revolution, but it was a social revolution of the most simple terms, being able to marry up. It was crazy. There was a bunch of other civil rights and stuff in that, but literally the biggest deal was just being able to marry up. And it was like causing havoc. This is not Rome that has conquered Italy. No, this is Rome city-state, not even doing big things yet. And this was a big deal that caused a lot of havoc and chaos. And some of this was upward mobility production of new elites that came from the plebeian stock and being able to come up. But that didn't solve the problem of elite upward production of unqualified elites. Like, that seems to be the main problem is, yes, you can get new blood that help you make greater patricians, and you have maybe higher highs, but you don't get the problem of that there is no lower lows of the elites. They always will only go down so far, because they can't go down farther, because humans not going to want to go down farther if it can stay up higher than it should.
Okay, we're doing this again, apparently.
We're back here, I see.
There he is. So there you go. Last thing I remember was getting caught in the current. And it's universally understood he means the live stream.
You recovered him permanently now?
Well, I don't want to spoil anything. Oh no, he's going to run off again after this and we'll have to chase him, but shouldn't be a problem.
Hey, you're not supposed to belong in this game. You're supposed to be in another game.
I will make him belong. Him and his hammer pants. Can't touch this. Definitely can't touch that hair. With a nasty paper cut.
Karen says, is this John Fantasy? Yes. Yes, that is John Fantasy.
Quite intense. Oh. Refresh my memory on what soldier was called in the Japanese version of FF7.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, was it just Senshi? I think it might have been. Oh, geez, that was unpleasant with my headphones set to the volume they were at. Sorry, Chad, if that got your ears tingling. Wait, I killed this world's version of Sephiroth. Got this cool purple rock. I must show him my rock collection. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna warp him here from another world and force him to admire our rock collection.
As you do.
It's
The
sword
whole
point.
point of this game is collecting the Zodiac Rock collection. How ironic.
This one's a geode. I polished it. Surely there can be no harm in allowing a brain-addled, violent maniac pulled from another world to just go running around off a leash.
Nope. No problem.
Oh, what has science done?
Gone too far. As ever.
But this time, in a hilarious direction.
I feel like Michael Crichton never was listened to both times, both in the book and the movie, about that science.
Brought to you by, or as seen in the sci-fi classic, Do Not Create the Torment Nexus.
Yeah.
As ever, science comes in a couple of flavors, and the first is, if we drop a nuke, it might set the atmosphere on fire. So let's drop a nuke and see if it sets the atmosphere.
That's empiricism.
Yeah. No.
That was the scientists in charge of the Manhattan Project actually they actually figured there was about a 50-50 chance of a nuclear atmosphere setting off a chain reaction that would ignite the atmosphere.
They should have just made the time machine and then saw how many have been blown up in testing and said, yeah.
Yeah. Being a kid is thinking dinosaurs are cool. Growing up is realizing dinosaurs are still cool because they'll never not be. Also, the Michael Crichton was right.
Yep.
And that's something they never actually touch on in anything they do with Jurassic Parks that I've seen.
His IPs are just being treated the same way as all IPs are.
I figured that was the case. I've only seen the first of those new Jurassic Parks when it came out. I haven't seen any of the others. I'm not going to see the newest one because why the hell would I bother? But to my understanding, there's no scene like in the very first Jurassic Park where they're sitting at the lunch table discussing the ramifications of these genetic experiments that they've been doing, which one might surmise is rather the whole impetus behind the book in the first place.
Yeah, no.
Or, ooh, dangerous dinosaur, cool.
Yeah, no, the second one, the reboot World really glossed over that compared to the first one, and then knowing how Michael Crichton wrote many of his stuff, it was just like, yeah, they really did kind of... I mean, yeah, the sequels kind of didn't care anymore, but they tried at least somewhat. But World really just glossed over it and said, big corporation bad, it would do it even though no problem. Now, big corporation have problem with monsters running around everywhere. But somehow, nothing really goes wrong for the corporation even though everyone dies and our heroes barely get out.
Yep.
Like, no more multi-billion-dollar monster theme park. But we're not in trouble.
And then they end up doing another multi-billion-dollar monster theme park anyways.
No, they start selling them. on the black market. Different bad guys.
Alright, everybody. I'm gonna sign off.
Oh, good night,
All
Seal.
right.
Take
Thanks
care.
for joining us.
Peace. And then the military wants to weaponize raptors for some reason. Perhaps the most inconvenient weapon to ever weaponize.
Yeah, that part was pretty dumb.
That part was always stupid.
Given the proclivities of how many stupid things the military tries to weaponize, I get it, but the military is not that stupid.
Yeah, like we
Looks like-
tried to weaponize bats. The military tried to weaponize cats. Dogs are, obviously easy to weaponize within their own capacity, but
I could not with a cat. I would not, could not with a bat. Well, bats are scary, I understand that one.
Ooh.
they try to
But-
make guided bombs with cats.
Thought
Or
that-
at least someone proposed the idea, and it went over about as well as you'd imagine.
Yeah. The problem is the cat coming back with the bomb.
No. It was like someone had the idea of okay, it was going to be a bomb that would be used on ships, right? So you drop it from a plane, aim it at a ship, but here's the thing: inside was a cat on a sort of treadmill attached to a bunch of pulleys that aimed fins on the bomb. So the idea was that the cat would try to avoid the water, because there was like a little window out the front of the bomb. The cat would try to avoid the water and start running towards the ship, so it kind of steered the bomb towards the ship. And this was a real thing that was actually proposed. I don't know if it was ever actually tested.
This
But it
is
was
just
proposed.
insane enough, it might actually be believable.
Yeah, no, it's true. It was like a thing in World War II. They tried to do this. Funny enough, the Germans actually made a real guided bomb in World War II, and they used it to sink two two big Italian battleships in just one hit each.
The
But
Germans.
yeah, it was a remote-controlled bomb. It was actually a really clever device. They
Right,
dropped
so
it
the
out of
Germans
their
were sinking Italian battleships.
yeah.
Eh.
Was this after they flipped, or
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, something to that effect, but it was actually really, really clever. Because it was a remote-controlled bomb. Just the only thing that was remote-controlled were the fins, right? Obviously, it didn't have any wireless cameras or anything to visually guide it. So what they did, they lit a flare on the back of the bomb as it was dropping, and then you'd have the bombardier looking out the window in the back, steering it in visually using the flare as a reference onto the target. Very clever, and it worked.
Meanwhile, the British were bouncing bombs off of water to hit dams.
and we
That's
were
right.
putting pigeons in missiles.
That was another guided bomb attempt.
Well,
I
okay,
think it
was
worked about as well.
Dr. Robotnik brought over under Project Paperclip by any chance?
Well, given that, like I mentioned, we were quite literally putting pigeons inside of missiles with touch screens. Yeah.
I'm
You know what's
I
funny?
mean, I've heard of the crazy psychic programs, and yeah, I'm not surprised by the more simple shenanigans of cat in cage will direct guided bomb, pigeon and missile will help guide missile.
Yeah, we came up with some really dumb ideas.
Speaking of Dr. Robotnik, something that he totally would have done, I can see being a Sonic map. The British tried to make an aircraft, like a giant aircraft carrier, out of ice.
Yeah, it's
And they actually
unsinkable.
did a prototype of it. that
Yeah,
took about
I
Yeah.
heard of that
oh,
one.
you know.
Yeah, that
It's
would've
just
worked.
crazy enough. Yeah, it actually was crazy enough it could have worked.
Yeah, actually, because it wasn't just ice. It's a special composite of ice and sawdust that makes it really strong and resilient. They call it pykrete.
Yep.
And they actually built like a boat out of it that took about a year to melt in Canada. But they dropped the project when they realized the steel required to make the freezers to actually make the Pykrete would like outnumber the steel just to make another aircraft carrier.
Of course, that was the reason we dropped it.
Vampire Cat. Oh yeah, so who here has seen the alleged trail cam video of like the midget werewolf / chupacabra / furry caught outside the fence at the Amarillo Zoo?
I've seen that.
I saw that, and you know my reply.
Yeah.
The what now?
Oh, you haven't seen it?
Can someone go to Twitter
doesn't-
and find that for him and put it in chat? In the Discord?
That does not look like a freaking Photoshop. The problem is I don't have the raw data nor the ability to find anyone. I haven't checked the image board's opinion on it, nor do I want to.
Context?
Yes, let's go look for the context.
Yeah. By the way, it sounds like someone is blowing over a beer bottle. Anyone know what that is? I'm gonna mute myself for a second, make sure it's not me.
Alright, Martel, you shall see the crazy things. I'll put it in, I sent to you, I'll put it in chat too. Not chat. Chat, you can,
That's a furry. That's a dude in a furry outfit.
The simple answer is probably a drunk furry. It looks crazy, but yes.
There is absolutely no way that thing isn't just a furry.
Now consider the furry was caught outside the fence of a zoo.
That's
Sleep.
the other reason why I'm saying it's a furry.
That raises a lot of disturbing implications.
Yeah.
Oh, you want another disturbing zoo story, do you? I'm not hearing any no's.
Go for it.
What type of disturbing are we talking?
Not the furry type.
Oh,
Okay.
that's something.
Yeah. So I haven't been able to verify this, but something of a persistent. It's more than an urban legend. Let us say local lore around my state is that back in the early 70s, there were a series of animal robberies from Chicago's Lincoln Park Zoo. Now, the missing animals were finally found dead, and the robbers were caught. Yeah. In the basement of an abandoned housing project near the south side. But from what I heard, all the thieves were quote unquote killed while resisting arrest, and examiners later found that the animals had been dead before the cops got there, or before the thieves returned that night. And no motive was ever found. The best theory anyone can think of is that they were stealing them from the zoo to sell to biotech firms for medical research, but I mean, what biotech company, like, wants a cheetah? If someone knows, please don't answer.
That's an interesting mystery.
A little high strangeness for you.
Say, Brian, do you recall ever seeing? I'm curious. In your neck of the woods, a Tasmanian tiger?
Yeah. I've mentioned this.
Yeah, I vaguely remember from another of your high strangeness. posts.
That's not the only out-of-place marsupial around here. Also in the 70s, but I think around 78, there was a phantom kangaroo flap in Chicago, which you can find police transcripts for and photos. Like, there were cops chasing these things around downtown. So that is confirmed real.
Sheesh.
To this day, nobody has any clue where they came from.
What were they exactly?
Kangaroos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What? Kangaroo?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
You can find pictures. Like, look it up. Don't just take my word for it. Look up, like, Chicago phantom kangaroo. Like, people... Yeah, residents reported seeing them, like, hopping around the neighborhood, and they called the cops, and the cops found them.
Speaking of seeing some strange things, on a tangent for high strangeness, does anyone here have any crazy night shift stories?
I once stayed up for 26 hours straight.
So what?
Nothing supernatural, nothing freaky.
No one in the corner. No black figures in the corner.
Right, and there were black spots on my vision. That count?
Close enough.
Okay,
I suppose
Albite,
that works.
Albite, what was the reason?
One of those days where you start working on something and then you just don't get a chance to finish up.
Yeah, I hear that.
I try to avoid that for certain reasons these days.
I get a little cranky if I don't get enough sleep, I found.
I'm doing training in a certain industry. You really cannot not have sleep.
How about
Like,
you,
yes.
Brian? You've had a storied life. Any very night shift stories?
Are you looking through my blog archives?
Yeah,
Right now?
we've seen those. I'll take one. It doesn't sound scary if you weren't there. But if you were there... Okay, so imagine everyone in the room, digitally and in the discussion group. Imagine you are a stressed out private. You once again have to do fire watch. And the fire watch at this point at the night in the barracks is kind of eerie. I'm not kidding. It's kind of eerie when you're up. Like, there's like no light, and you're tired as hell. It's like halfway through basic, and you're just like with your rifle. Because if you keep your rifle away from the head of your bed or out of your arm's reach, it's going to get stolen by someone, and then you're going to have to figure that out. So you're here with your rifle, just sitting here, just tired out, just like sleepy as hell. The light's really eerie, like kind of dim red. Not much lighting at all. Just so you're trying not to sleep, and you're just trying not to sleep, and then you forget about something. And then bam, you wake up, and here's the sergeant. Private. Just the sheer terror you hear from Private.
Yes,
and
Satan.
then this massive thing staring down from you on your chair where you're supposed to be doing fire watch. The sheer terror in that moment with the eerie lighting and this monster of a sergeant staring down at you. That's very hard to replicate in the scare factor. I can't think of many esoteric horrors that can replicate a drill sergeant just saying, Private. But in this eerie lighting, when you think you're still awake, but obviously you aren't, and you're screwed at this point.
You set the scene well.
I mean, I've heard a lot of horror stories, like actual ghost stories, from comrades who took posts on other bases or night watch at other bases. But especially in Korea for some reason. There's a lot of those in Korea. Gonna tell you why.
There's probably good reasons.
Probably. But yeah, in a more mundane but very real way, a sergeant catching you asleep on watch.
And remember, it's still the eerie night lighting. The sergeants live in the night. Many of these guys are infantrymen. They've trained in the night, so just staring above. Didn't even sneak up. Just walk up in the night and then just go, private.
Okay, so this one isn't mine, but it's a story in a similar vein that I've heard. So, are you guys familiar with the big naval base on Lake Superior? Like the shore of the Great Lakes
Training Center?
Yes. Yeah, I can't remember if that's the Navy or whose it is, or if it's shared. But yeah, that one.
Navy.
Okay. Good, my memory is sharp. So I heard this story that there is a particular building on that base which is said to be haunted, where there's one phenomenon that's been reported throughout the years is phantom footsteps heard pacing down this one particular hallway. And the story comes from a private who was on night watch with a couple of buddies, and their orders were like, guard this door, challenge anyone who approaches. I don't care if it's one of your buddies or me or a superior officer. Got to answer the challenge. Got to say the password. So they are posted there at night. Around midnight, they hear footsteps approaching from down the hall. And they expect to see someone around the corner, and they're ready to challenge him. But the footsteps keep coming, or at least the sound of them does, but from no visible source. So the dude telling the story, like his knees are knocking, but he looks to his two buddies for help. They're already gone. So he does the only thing he can think of. He flashes back to his training and issues a challenge and like demands the password. Footsteps keep coming. Readies his rifle, informs the invisible man that use of deadly force is authorized, and is about to pull the trigger when the sound stops. So nothing else odd happens that night. But the next morning, their sergeant comes in, and because the whole thing was caught on video, what he does is he chews out the other two for not staying and challenging the ghost, and just tells the private it did stay and follow orders. Good job. And no one mentions anything else about it ever again. Apparently, they like to do that on purpose to new privates. Station them in that hallway.
Wow.
Oh. The thing is, I can believe that I can believe that also the people who are trained to sneak in the woods, soldiers, they could pull something off like that, and you would not be sure if it's a ghost or not.
Oh, that is absolutely a military thing to do.
But if it is a ghost, do I believe
This hallway has a ghost in it.
Yeah.
Well, let's just use it to screw with the newbies.
Would they use a ghost as a shit test on new privates? Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, in basic, the drill sergeants literally with a marker would when we were doing field training in the army. I don't know if they changed it from my one, but they would take a marker and you'd be trying to stay in your foxhole and stay alive, and then somehow still, with all the things and the fake you going bang bang with your rifle, they still somehow end up marking your neck up with a bunch of marker strikes, and then of course you're doing whatever. It's just,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, the closest thing I have to that is I may have told this in a comment on your blog, but that was a long time ago. I'm not going to tell anyone to dig for that, so I'll just say it here. There's not much to the story, in all honesty. It was only told to me basically secondhand at the Air Force Academy. It was, I want to say it was in the squadron hallway for Squadron 20, I think? Maybe 24? Something to that effect. Which one was it? No, it might have been Squadron 4, the Phantoms, actually. Was that the Phantom? It's been so long, my memory is almost shot with the particulars, but either way, it was I remember the name of the squadron being particularly apt, but what had happened was there was a cadet there who had committed suicide in one of the rooms one semester, which was a not uncommon occurrence there, unfortunately. It is a great place of great misery for many people. But what had happened was when they assigned 2 new cadets to that room, about a week later, the cadets were found sleeping in the squadron common room instead, with blankets and a pillow, because they had refused to sleep in their own assigned room. They wouldn't exactly say why. And then to disprove, to kind of prove how silly it was, the squadron commander, the AOC, who was a major, and his sergeant, who was a E6, a technical sergeant, stayed in there for one night. Except it said that in that room, they left in the middle of the night around 1 to 2 a.m., locked it, and kind of just jammed the key in the lock and never spoke of it again. As far as I know, that room was still uninhabited to that day. And they never said what happened in there, what they saw. They just locked it. No one was ever assigned there again. Well, so like I said, not much to it, but your mind can take you places that you don't want to go with a story that has that many holes.
I guess it's up to you, the listener, to decide. That's a good one. I remember that one.
Yeah. I think I ended up walking by the squadron hall where that was, but I couldn't find that particular door. No one will tell me what it was. I didn't feel like opening every door because that could cause some awkward situations.
Don't mess with ghosts.
Yeah, that's a good idea in general.
Yeah. I haven't had any run-ins, but something tells me you don't want to run into them.
You definitely don't want to seek them out.
Yeah.
I can tell you that much.
Best leave well enough alone. Unless you're a trained exorcist, I suppose.
Well, that's for demons.
Oh,
You definitely do not want to tempt those.
Yeah, that's very true. Yikes.
That's a whole other kettle of fish. Although, okay, so the story that I think you were angling for, CS, does have to deal with a ghost run-in, but not by me directly. At least I don't think so. But that would, of course, be my good old standby theater ghost story. Stop me if you guys remember this one. So, back near the mid-aughts, I was the assistant manager at a local movie theater here in town attached to a broader entertainment complex. Had a couple of restaurants in it as a bowling alley, even a gym. And originally it was just a 4-screen Cineplex that opened in the 80s. In the late 90s, they expanded out into what had been a parking lot and went up to 12 screens. Built a whole new lobby, front concession, and a bunch more theaters. So, which is why it was kind of odd that we started getting weird activity in Cinema Number 2. Biggest screen in the house, also one of the newest. It was in the new construction. we had a couple little incidents that like were weird, but could have been attributed just to chance or mischief-making teenagers after hours, right? But not so much what happened one night while the janitor was on duty, or rather, waiting to come on duty. Let me explain. So, the theater maintained a couple of ushers on the closing shift, and they would do like light janitorial, right? They would just sweep up the floor after the last show, and if there'd been like a drink spill or anything, they would they'd mop it, but they really wouldn't do anything more than that. After the manager and the ushers and box office and everyone had left for the night, a separate janitorial team would come in to like actually vacuum the carpets or deep clean them if they needed it, do more extensive work. Well, at the time, one of our projectionists, a dude named Chris, was pulling double duty because he asked to also moonlight as a janitor and convinced the general manager to hire on him and a couple of his friends to come in after hours. They were given a key and they were allowed to come in and clean up. They just had to be out by 6 a.m. when like the earliest possible opening manager would be in. So what he'd do was he would work closing up in booth and then just put a movie together and throw a movie on for himself in one of the back theaters until it was time to get to work. That was just a little treat for the night, right? So one night in the fall, it's after closing, everyone else went home like an hour ago, he locked the place up, had it to himself, decided, okay, well, I'm going to get out a couple of film canisters, I'm going to splice together a movie, I'm going to thread it back in theater number 8 near the old lobby, and just going to kick back and enjoy myself until it's time to clean up. So he's down there, and theater 8 is near the back concession, the original concession, which was left open as like an ancillary spot where folks in the back half of the theater could get refills. But there was a phone back there still, and like 15 minutes into the movie, he hears the phone back in cafe ringing. So at first he's like, okay, well, that's really not my problem. We're closed. I'm just going to enjoy the film here. So eventually, after several rings, it stops ringing. But then, like another 15 minutes later, it starts ringing again. So at this point, he's like, okay, well, maybe it's Jason, the manager, who locked himself out or something, or there's some kind of emergency. I've got my phone off, so maybe he knows. Because like he was aware of Chris's habits, right? So he's trying to get a hold of me. So he goes out there and answers it. He's like, hello, gives a company greeting, and doesn't get a verbal answer, but he just hears breathing on the other end of the line. So he waits a second, says hello a couple more times. When he doesn't get an answer, hangs up the phone, goes back to his movie in a huff. Another 10 to 15 minutes later, phone rings again. He's tempted just to stay there and keep watching the movie, because now he's pretty into it, but he's like, okay, maybe it was Jason, and he just had bad cell reception, right? Because remember, these are the days before smartphones became widely proliferated. So it's like, okay, marches back out there, picks up the phone in cafe. Hello, thank you for calling such and such cinemas. This is Chris. There's a pause, and he just hears this gravelly, kind of wispy voice say, I see you. So, Chris is a big guy. He was like 6'2", probably 300 pounds. So he's not frightened by this so much as getting pissed off. He wants to watch his movie. So his immediate thought is, there are some kids out in the parking lot pulling his leg. So he turns and looks through the entrance doors in the back lobby, which showed on the parking lot. And if anyone was watching him, that's the only place they could be. And the parking lot's empty. There's a big street light out there that illumines the entire visible space. Doesn't see anybody. So he goes back into the cinema, looks around, no one's in there. Goes the rest of the night, finishes the movie, cleans up, goes home. Tells the manager about it the next day, and he's like, no, I didn't call you, that wasn't me. So, like, just be careful. So, they play it off as a prank, go on with their lives. Well, about a week later, it happens again, exact same thing. Same message, I see you. So, after the second time, Chris is getting kind of spooked. So, he gets the manager to agree to have the phone company, like, trace the call, like, next time it happens. So it takes about 2-3 more weeks, but it does happen again. Manager tells him, and that, like, I swear this is true, this is not, I'm not cryptic, this is from the urban legend, the calls were coming from inside the theater, specifically in booth. And guess where the phone is? It's on the wall right next to the projector for Theater 8, where Chris was. So now he's starting to get spooked and pissed because now he's thinking, okay, there's some customer, some hobo off the interstate which runs behind the theater, somebody who's sneaking in at night somehow, or maybe like hiding somewhere until after they're closed and is sneaking up in a booth and is playing Peep and Tom, watching him watch movies from up in booth. So next time he has to close, he calls one of his buddies in to do it with him. And sure enough, there's another call. So as soon as that happens, Chris and his buddy start from opposite ends of the cinema, and they go door to door, theater to theater. They check the whole place. They make sure the doors are all locked. They were. There was no way in or out of there. Finally, they go up to booth, which has 2 entrances on opposite sides. So starting from either end, they work their way to the middle. No one's there. The phone in Theater 8 looks totally untouched. And that was the last time that happened. Unfortunately, there's no real closure to the story. Eventually, the theater changed hands. But I heard it from guys I believe, and I myself experienced some weird things in some of the theaters. Not 8, but particularly number 2. So I'm inclined to believe Chris and Jason on this one.
I remember this. I don't know where. I think it was the blog, but yeah, this was one of the eerie ones.
You know, that matches a lot of accounts from the early days of the telephone. Like the telephone, like Alexander Graham Bell telephone.
The telephone?
Where when people bought their new telephones, there were a lot of stories that came out around the time of mysterious calls, and hearing the voices of people that they knew were dead. Like their own, like...
Oh, that still
like
happens.
Friends and... It does, but that just reminded me of that.
Yeah, there are still stories up to the present day about that exact phenomenon happening.
Interesting. I'm wondering what happened when we digitized the phones, because almost everyone assumes a phone call they don't know anymore is a scam call, and 90% of the time they're right, it's a scam call, but how many scam calls are not actually scam calls, they're just being ignored and they're these weird events?
Well, I mean, here's one example. I think it was back around like 2007. There was that big commuter train crash in California where the conductor was, he was actually on his phone. He was texting when his train hit a truck or something. Like a huge disaster. Well, shortly after the crash occurred, the family and friends of one particular passenger received calls from that passenger's phone, like, all at the same time. Almost like a conference call or something. And, like, none of them were in time to answer it, because, like, it only rang a couple times. But the caller ID said it was him. And investigators later determined that to be impossible, because at the time that the cellular carrier recorded that the phone call had been placed, this dude and his phone had already been totally obliterated in the train crash. So make of that what you will.
The line between physical and ethereal are not so hard as we would believe.
And on that note, I'm gonna have to call it here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, we were just one dot on the map away from getting Cloud back. That's why I'm skipping this battle. But if you don't have time,
Dreadnought brings up.
I understand.
Sorry.
Yeah. Let's hold off on the chat for a sec. Are you? Do you have just like a couple more minutes?
Yeah, I could hang on for a bit longer.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I didn't want you to feel like you missed something. All right, come on, game. No, I do not want to fight on the Fineth River. Ah. Soft resetting is still saving us time compared to me going through the whole battle. Like, it'd be great if there was a way I could just say, okay, I give up, and like pay them tribute or something, and I'd have to fight. Actually, I think the mediator can do that. But oh well. Come on, people have got to go to bed. Okay, go ahead, CS. What's going on in chat?
Dreadnought brings up his own experience once.
Oh,
He
do
says
tell.
sometimes you just get a feeling that you have to get out of there. I was on a vacation as a teen with my family once, and we stopped for a rest break. It was at night, really dark, and I'm looking out over these fields of waving trees, and suddenly I realized that we had to get out of there now, he emphasizes. I don't recall feeling terror like that before or since. It was this overwhelming aura of menace and impending doom. I actually convinced them to head out. Don't know what it was, don't really want to know. It was the feeling of being watched by some sort of predator you can't see and know nothing about.
Wow. Okay, this is weird. So we should have run into Cloud here. There should have been a cutscene. So I hope by doing things out of order, we're not in some like weird loop. Maybe if I try to leave. Nope. Okay. Alright then, everybody's dismissed. I'm gonna have to do more research and figure this out.
More research.
But thanks for joining us. Make sure to back Comet Frame, Z-Strike Xseed. Links in the notes below. Let's get us to our next stretch goal, which I'll announce tomorrow. And there are tons of other cool perks you can claim in the meantime, like Series 6 trading cards. Thanks for listening to Geek Gab. Make sure to like and subscribe and click the bell icon for this and other shows on this network, including the main Geek Gab show with Daddy Warping and Dornall. This has been Final Fantasy Tactics Retrospective. I've been your host, Brian, and my panel tonight has been
Crusader Saracen.
And Brad.
And Martel.
and the sleepy and absent Catholic Lancer. So thanks for joining us. Have a good night, and remember, folks,